Welcome to the April 12th, 2023 meeting of the DFW Marine Aquarium Society. We've got some housekeeping announcements to make before we turn it over to our speaker this evening. First, the photo of the month March winners. The grand prize went to ETFI3, got a $50 gift certificate. Voter prizes, there were random winners, each got a bundle. Glass Aquatics Aquarium Towel and Willow's Reef Forest Feast. And those winners were Cisco Junior 82, NTL 555, Dis AZN Guy 817, and Matt K. Taylor. Congratulations to everybody. Coming up April 22nd, Saturday at 1 p.m. We have a gathering hour and giveaways at Frank's Tanks. It's a hobbyist hangout. There'll be a 2 p.m. free raffle featuring Blue Life USA, Easy Reef, Reef Racks, Red Sea, Frank's Tanks, and Piscine Energetics products. So make sure you put that on your calendar. May 13th, Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Is another event, another gathering hour and giveaways. This time it'll be at Melev's Reef. This will be a hangout at Marc's home. The address will be posted when it gets closer, about 2 weeks out. So that'll be a great opportunity to actually go put eyes on some of Marc's 2 tanks. Marc, you're running 2 tanks now? He's got 2, right? Yeah. So put that on your calendar. Also, May 18th, we've got a Thursday Club Zoom meeting featuring Brightwell's Cat, known online as Metro Cat NY. Some more announcements. The club needs some volunteers for Aquashella. It's May 20th and 21st of this year in Dallas. Needs mostly volunteers to help with morning shifts with 1 or 2 volunteers staffing the club table. If you're interested, there's a sign-up thread in the forum under general discussion. Providing volunteers helps the club afford our table space. So if you're going to Aquashella, be sure to visit the club table where it was located or near where it was located last year along the back wall and say hi. Bus registration is still open. Sign-up thread is on the website, so please indicate your interest and how many seats. This is our big annual premium event and is free. It includes lunch, drinks, and snacks, exclusive giveaways when traveling on the motor coach between some of the stores. It's like a family-friendly bar crawl to fish stores. So that's going to be a lot of fun, good chance to meet a lot of other people in the hobby. Please sign up. I'm not sure how many slots are left, but slots are limited. We got lots of other speakers, events, giveaways planned further out and even into next year. Details will be on the website, in the calendar, in the forum. So that concludes our announcements. But before I turn it over, make sure you watch to the end of the presentation. There will be a giveaway donated by PE, so it'll be some Piscine Energetics Marine PE pellets, but you got to be there at the end of the meeting to win. So stick around for that. And before we turn it over to Marc Levenson, I'm sure everybody in the club, of course, knows who Marc is. He's a president of the club and been associated with DFWMAS for years and years. If you don't know him, he was one of the first out of the gate on a really helpful website for new reefers and intermediate reefers that I think, Marc, did you start that in 2003 or 4, somewhere around there?
I joined the club in 2002.
So yeah, it was about around that same time. So it's a great website and resource for any reef keeper or marine fish keeper on a variety of topics. Also, he carries a lot of products. He's been a fixture in the reef aquarium hobby nationwide for years, speaking both at national and regional reef conferences and events. Just a swell guy and a friend of the reef keeper. Marc Levenson.
Oh, I love that. You should introduce me all the time. I love that. All right. So I have to talk. You can't talk, Jack. Hey, you can't talk. All right. So today's topic is aquarium photography. And you might think, well, maybe I'll be bored. Maybe I don't care. But there's actually a lot of information here that can help you with your tank, especially when you're looking for help. If you say, oh my God, this is happening in my tank, and you take a picture and it's just blue, we can't see anything but a blue square. It's pointless. And we can't even put on the Aquashella glasses and look at your blue square and get a picture. It doesn't work that way. So we need to know how to take pictures of our aquarium. And that would be for emergencies, but also how about just when you want to share what you're appreciating, what you love so much? Because every day you look at your tank, you're proud of it, you spent a lot of money on it, you've kept some really cool creatures, and then you share blurry pictures or you share pictures that, you know, are just, you could do better. And so that's the point of this topic, to do better. And I'll tell you, I am very picky about photography. It's actually a really bad reputation that I have. This is Michael Vargas. He's a fantastic photographer. He came over to keep my ego down.
Come on.
The thing is that I'm so picky about pictures that when I used to be involved in the photo contest on Reef Central back in the day, and I was not in charge of it, I would get upset that they would include bad pictures as part of the selection of what should be chosen. You know, like, let's just say 50 people submitted a picture and 43 pictures were fantastic, and you had 7 garbagey pictures. They still included them. And I would say, why are you doing that? And they said, well, they submitted, so we can't leave them out. I said, there is no way that would ever win a vote anyway. They need to get better. And so that attitude, unfortunately, leaked out and people heard what I was saying. And I remember one person came up to me and, oh no, actually, he shared a picture. I was online and I said, hey, that's a really nice shot. And he said, wow, that is a huge compliment coming from you. And I was like, well, you took it. And he's like, no. I used to take really bad pictures and you were so picky that I have been stepping up my game. And I was just like, I feel guilty now. I feel like I was mean when all I wanted was you to share really good pictures so we can appreciate what it is you see yourselves. So when it comes to photography, there are 2 types of cameras mainly. There's going to be DSLR or there's going to be the smartphone. Those are the 2 choices that people use these days. And I would say the DSLR is less popular unless you're doing it professionally. And that would be when you're wanting to take pictures to print, or you're taking pictures for websites because you are trying to promote a product, or you are printing things on metal like this man does here. There are all these fantastic pictures that they take that are nothing like what you're taking. And, you know, we drool over their work. Well, technically, you can kind of get some of that work. You can do it too. It's not impossible, but there's gonna be some basics. For example, I'm wearing a huge shirt that is mostly black, but there's a giant fish on the front. He is wearing a black shirt that has almost nothing. There's a little logo here in the corner, but when you're taking pictures in front of an aquarium, whatever's on your shirt will reflect off the glass and could spoil the picture. So it'd be much better to wear an all black shirt, just be a ninja. And then I would also stop all the light in the room. I would close all the curtains. I would turn off any lights in hallways, anything that can reflect off the glass. So I literally have a well-lit tank and I don't have anything that's spoiling the shot or that looks like there's a window reflecting off it. I mean, literally, you see a window.
Adding to that, I've held cardboard, you know, behind me, taking the picture, and blankets, pillows, whatever.
Exactly. You're trying to put a barricade to block all the light. One of the biggest things I hate seeing in the reflection of aquariums is going to be mini blinds. And to our eye, you see right through it. It's not there. But the camera shows slats going straight across your whole project, and it makes the shot look bad. So I would say that it's really important to do everything you can to darken the room, take the pictures at night when you can shut everything down. If you have people walking around the house, tell them to get lost because you just want some quiet time with your tank, take some nice pictures without a lot of underfoot and a lot of people doing things and walking through. Because, for example, let's just paint a ridiculous picture. I want to shoot video of my tank and I set the camera up and I hit record and then I decide to get naked to go take a shower because it's going to be running 15 minutes. Well, if the lighting's just right and there's a reflection, you might see a naked guy walking around in the background of the glass. We don't want any surprises.
A bristleworm.
So don't show your bristleworm on camera. But no, seriously, we want to make sure that you have got all your light blocked. Now, the other place to block light would be right up here at the top, because when you don't have a shield in front, all that light is cascading not only into your eyes, it's also cascading into your lens. And so sometimes when I'm holding up a cell phone to take a picture, so I've got let's see if this will work. I charged this in a hurry because I'm using my cell phone for the broadcast. Let's see. So I'm in my camera mode, and then I've got this light shining in. It's ruining the shot. I would take my hand and do this kind of thing. So as I took my picture, I'm blocking the light from getting in. And that is a technique that can really work in your favor.
Kind of what a lens hood does the same thing too.
Yeah, the lens hood on the front of your camera, if you had a DSLR and you had a big scoop on the front, that would help prevent it. But if you can put anything on the top of the tank to block the light, sheets of cardboard, a piece of sign material, hang some fabric, just make sure that whatever you're doing won't catch fire, because you've got a light that's hot, and you don't want that light to ignite your fabric or your cardboard.
So Mark, you're talking about if you don't have a hood, right?
Right. If you don't have a hood, most people have these rimless tanks, and you just see the lights hanging down, and there's no block of the shield. And so, like my anemone cube, that is a rimless. Well, it's not. The new tank is not rimless, but it's going to have a Radion light hanging over it, and it's going to have the XHOs, and it's going to throw blue light everywhere. So I'm actually going to make a 3-sided canopy that just slides into place that will block, be about this tall, just to block all the lights, so I can just enjoy the tank and not have the light in my eye, and it won't bounce off the walls of the room, and yet still lets the heat rise out perfectly. And then when I need to work in the tank, I can just slide it off and get it out of the way. But it's great for photography because now you just have a slice of water and no other distractions.
It's like when I used to do my top downs, above the water, you would get the reflection on that. Hold a piece of paper, same thing, cardboard. It'd shadow it a little bit, but you wouldn't get the reflection and the glare and everything.
Yeah. So you want to block as much of the spurious light as possible to get your best shot. Now, most of you have LED lighting. So I always tell people, change your lights so the tank looks okay on camera. So like right now, my tank is just in its normal mode. I didn't change it yet. So we'll go ahead and do that now, hopefully.
The other thing, a lot of people put it in very deep blue and have a tough time with the picture.
Right. So instead, I have several settings for my lights that will change it to this color, which looks horrible in person, but it looks excellent on camera. It actually looks pretty close to accurate. I have another choice that I can do for photography that's called Photos Time. And that one takes away some of the blue. And on camera, that looks decent. It's not fantastic, but it's decent enough. But I find that by removing a lot of the blue and letting the camera add the blue it wants to add, you end up with a nice picture. But like I said, it won't be true to your eye. Like right now, I think the tank looks pretty. But if you're trying to take a picture, odds are my cell phone would add too much blue. So it's better for me to be in that streaming mode that I showed you a second ago, where it's in a much more yellow state. And like I said, it looks hideous to my human eyeball. I mean, it looks dim and it looks brown, but on camera, it looks like a natural reef. It adds a little bit of the blue, and it's appealing. So I would change my tank lights first, and then when I want to take my phone and take pictures, I can with success because I don't have to fight the blue. Now with a DSLR, thanks to this man right here, I learned about a filter that you can screw on the front that saves me a lot of trouble. So I'm going to show you guys. So this filter here is an orange filter. And
I would say amber, because there's orange.
Whatever.
Orange, it'll blow it'll blow everything out.
85B, that's all you got to know, 85B. So you get 85B and then whatever fits your camera. And I mean, technically, if you had one of these things, you could pretty much put it in front of your phone and take your pictures. You can just hold it up there and let it do what it needs to do to make things look right.
So I have a question about I think you might have kind of answered it with the 85B, because I was online looking for gels and I noticed there are all different densities of that orange amber color.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if there's like the perfect one for like the type of blue we usually run, if that's the one.
85B is it'll filter some of the blue. It's not meant for straight like heavy blues. You want like a crisp, how you describe it, like a crisp white blue color in your tank, and it'll filter. It'll help. I don't want to jump ahead, but I shoot in Kelvin now with that filter. It helps. It eliminates some of the editing on the back end. But
Okay.
the bluer you go, you want to introduce more warmth. So a solid orange, like straight orange filter will help with that deep blue.
Yeah.
But you'll blow out your yellows, you'll blow out reds, and sometimes green.
And blues. Like if you're using, you're filtering out blue and you're trying to take a picture of blue torque,
That's hard, yeah.
it won't look right. I mean, you have to do some magic there in Photoshop, or you need to shoot it with a white flash to kind of hit it, to punch through, or not use the filter at all and just completely shoot in raw.
Yeah, I mean, what
Which
you
is a way of
can,
editing.
you can really dial in the white balance. The Canon's cameras are really good with white balance. A lot better than Nikon. You really don't need a filter with Canons. Nikons, you kind of do. It just depends what you want to do, whether you want to edit on the back end or try to get it right in camera and not spend time editing.
So if you white balance, you do that before you use a filter, or you may not even need to use a filter if you white balance your Canon properly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you really don't need a filter. You don't need a filter with Canons. You really
Yeah, you
don't.
white balance in advance.
In advance, yeah.
So what you
okay.
can do is you can put PVC pipe inside the tank and then adjust the white balance to
Yeah, I
that.
think they have a bracketing white balance option. And I don't know if it's on all Canons, but the ones I've used have a bracketing option where you'll take the picture, it'll white balance it, and then it'll adjust it again with a second white balance that you programmed. And that's what really you're doing. Nikons, you're really limited to just to Kelvin. You're limited, like, I think on most of them 10,000 Kelvin, which you want to go higher with that sometimes.
Okay. And Mark, if I'm asking too many questions, you can tell me to shut up. But you mentioned flash a minute ago, and I've always had a question, like, how do you, with the reflection on the glass and the flash, how do you do that together?
I have a flash inside this table. We can't show it.
I wish I would have brought my
So I have a flash that would fit on the top of this camera, but it also has an extension cable where I can hold it off to the side.
Oh,
I can actually be shooting here with my tripod, and you could even put the flash on the second tripod, or you can mount it above the tank if wherever you want it. So like right here, let's say I'm shooting that coral straight ahead, and then I'll have the flash here shooting at a 45-degree angle. You can have it above the water, so there's literally no reflection off the glass, but you might get some bounce back from the top. Or you can put it here, and as you're shooting through, the light will hit it, but it won't quite get in the lens. And this is more trial and error as you just zoom in or try to adjust slightly to find that sweet spot to where the light isn't affecting you. And you can keep moving it until you find that perfect angle that you really like.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. I never thought of that. That's awesome.
They have a diffuser helps too. Like I use a Magmog diffuser. It's like a plastic silicone thing. Or you go to Best Buy and they have these cloth ones that you can attach to your flash, and it helps with the hot spots and not blowing out, getting too much, I guess, too bright on a coral or a fish or whatever.
Yeah, like if I could show you my flash, unfortunately I can't. It's literally under all this gear that we're using to do this. But I have this thing that's made of fabric. He was mentioning, a friend of mine recommended it like 10 years ago. And it's really small, but when you open it up, it goes, it's a big thing that then fits like a boot on, or like a sock on top of the sock. And it's this huge black circle with a white shield on the front. And so when I would take pictures of products, I wouldn't get that little rectangular white square bouncing off my product. I'd have a big soft light kind of hit. And it really cleaned up the photography really well for me in that case. And I'll tell you, he also has a technique where he shoots his aquariums with the building of an obsession photo box. So he puts the camera, he mounts it on here, and he shoots down at the coral through this thing right here, right? Because it's clear. But he embedded lights in the bottom. So as he's shooting, it's actually throwing light on the subject that he's controlled. He's literally dialed in. You can talk about that if you want.
Not really, but
you don't explain it? It's a neat trick. It's a secret. It's really neat.
It eliminates my need for lights now. Like I can control the situation in any situation. But it's an idea I got from the macro, like bug photography. They use these light rings that hook onto the front of your lens. And same concept, but that's.
But he put it inside the viewer, which is really smart, because that way you can submerge your box into the water to get closer to the subject and light it and shoot it. But because the way he's got his lights in there, there's no reflection of the lights on the glass.
Yeah. Aside from that, I used Kessel though. It doesn't matter what lights, but I had 2 Kessels on tripods, and I would shine them on both ends of, the tank or the coral or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's how I would photograph through the glass or top downs, and that's expensive though. But yeah, that helps out a lot.
Yeah, if you're using a couple of Kessels, you have to be aware of the one risk and that's you'll melt the tank.
I've done that. Justin Spa.
He has
Sorry.
literally melted the plastic trim because he had the light right there leaning, and it was just cooking the plastic.
You don't really need more than one Kessel. The only reason why I used more than one, I got really picky about shadows, and I was trying to eliminate that. And then I learned how to diffuse it, and that helped even more. But really, just one's enough.
But sometimes, this is when you go exploring with photography. It's not just I want to take a picture of a coral. You're like, I want to take a really cool artistic shot. And I remember one time I had a Kessel light that's in the back. It's in my fish room in use right now. But for a while, I wasn't using it for anything. And so I rigged it up next to the tank, again, shooting at the 45-degree angle. And I had these real dramatic pictures that I could actually shoot when the tank was dark, but I used the Kessel to make it light up. And then I had the camera set up in a way where it could absorb, it could take a good picture in low light conditions. And it looked like I was taking a picture at night. It was just like, it's sort of like you were taking pictures of roses recently at night. And everything was black, but the rose was perfectly well lit. Because you used a light, obviously, to highlight the subject. Now, when it comes to DSLRs, the rule of thumb is the lower the ISO is going to be the less grainy. And the higher you go up with a number, the more grainy it can be. So if you're dealing with a subject that's not moving, you can use low ISO in most cases and end up with a really nice picture. Now, if you're sharing the pictures on the web, no one cares. But if you're trying to print it, that's where it matters. Because you want print quality. If you're trying to make a huge banner, or you're trying to make a billboard, or you're trying to print something to hang on the wall, like a big poster, you're not going to want to see all the pixel. You want it to look like a nice photograph. And so we want to get as little grain as possible. Now, there's a lot of work you can do after the shot is taken, cleaning it up inside Photoshop or Lightroom or one of those different programs. And in those cases, you can really dial things in. But the more you do in advance with your camera getting set up correctly, the less work you have to do after the fact, which is like that orange filter. Because I would take all my pictures, I would import those raw pictures, RAW, that's the type of file I use. I drag it in the computer, and then I had to adjust all the Kelvin spectrums of every photo first before I could start. And then this man said, oh, I don't have that problem at all. And I'm just, shooting corals. Oh my God, it was so much better. And as soon as I learned what the filter was, I bought one for every lens I own. So I have 5 lenses and 5 different filters. They're always on them all the time. And that way I can just shoot with whatever I like. And I can get nice macro shots. I can get full tank shots. I can get, what I call a reef shot, where you see a lot of the reef, or I can zoom in on one specific thing. But I always have that filter on the lens to make my life a little bit simpler. And I can even look at it used to be, this goes way back. So back in probably like 2006 or 2007, one of the first stores to use blue light in the tank was Saltwater Paradise. And Saltwater Paradise started a new company called Extreme Corals. And Extreme Corals was selling these fantastic looking corals. And we were like, oh my God, we've never seen corals that look like this before. We're used to the brown ones. And he had, no, I have all the fantastic colors. Like, how is this possible? Well, he was using a lot of blue lighting. And when you walked into a store, everything was blue. Everything was blue. And I was like, well, what does the coral look like in reality? Because my tank doesn't look like this. And so because I had a camera with white balance adjusted, I would take a picture of the coral, and then I'd look at my camera and say, oh, that's what it looks like, because it had filtered out the blue. So that was my way of workarounds. These days, we want it to be as blue as possible and glowing as possible. And typically, if the price is the highest it can possibly be, it's probably going to be a coral that I want to have. And that can be really expensive on the wallet. So we want to be able to make sure that we have, the point is we want to be able to take pictures accurately, is in my opinion. And so my biggest compliment from anyone is when they come over and see my reef in person, they say it looks like the pictures or it looks like the video. And that's a giant compliment to me, because I don't you can for fun really crank up the colors and make something look ridiculously, unbelievably saturated and just gorgeous. But it's like watching a cartoon. It's not reality, right? And so I choose not to make things look fake. I want them to look like what I see with my eye. And a lot of times I'm very frustrated at my computer as I'm editing. I might even walk over to the tank and look at it one more time and then go back to my screen and see if I can match it up, because I want it to be as photorealistic as I can.
See, it's like everyone else catfishes their reef tank.
Yes.
And you don't.
It's funny you say that. And not that I follow a catfish channel, but there was one Instagrammer, and their tank was just it was massively popular and everyone followed it. And the corals were just insanely vivid. And I was thinking, man, my reef just doesn't look good. And it wasn't, it was because of being tricked by theirs, you know. And then finally that person uploaded a video that looked normal. And I was like, oh, okay, I feel better. I feel better now. And I was like, thank God this person stopped doing that, because it's not fair to everyone else.
Yeah.
Especially if you're following them to learn.
Finding that right balance, because if it's too on the wider spectrum, it's not going to look good. If
Yeah.
it's too blue, then yeah, you could really juice up some colors.
Yeah. It's just, you know, and then of course, after you created your video, then Instagram says which filter you want to apply to it to make it even more fantastic. And you know, you can pick I think it's called Jefe, or there's one called Lo-Fi, there's one called Juno. Those are some that kind of work with tanks, that they really push it over the edge. And for me, again, I'm looking for what's real, because I'm not selling corals, I'm not selling my tank, I'm just showing what I'm growing in my house, and I want to be as accurate as possible. Now, let's talk about some techniques, because I don't want to omit that, because that's important. First thing you want to do is clean your camera. You want to make sure that your lens is nice and clean. If it was just in your pocket, wipe off the lens before you take your first picture. And then once you're in your camera mode, you can use a clip, like the Polyp Lab clip that just fits on the front of your phone. You just clip it over there. And now it's going to filter out the blue automatically. So as I'm working on my tank, I'll be able to get this in the sweet spot, and I can go ahead and go up there and take my picture and click, I've got it. And now I've got this nice photo. Now, if you're using a clip or you're not using a clip, one of my techniques that I like to do is literally put the phone on the glass. I don't want to scratch the tank, but I want to get it flush. Number one, my camera's not moving. It's not wiggling. I don't get any motion or blur. And then I can touch the screen on the subject I want to focus on. So if it's a coral up front, I touch the front. If it's a coral in the back, I touch one in the back. If the coral is like really bright, like a hot green one versus everything else is more muted, I usually pick the hot spot to bring down the lighting, or I'll even drag down the intensity to make it darker so I get my nice shot, or I'll bring it up.
Underexpose it.
Yeah, you underexpose a little bit, because it'll add a little bit of black and the picture will look a lot cleaner. I just hit the button and shoot it. And that technique works everywhere. That works in a fish store, that works in your home, that works at a public aquarium where there's a lot of people. And so you can get some nice pictures when you're out and about. And again, you're always watching for reflections and trying to avoid those. That's my trick, to put it right on the glass. I did the same thing with my DSLR. I had a big rubber boot on the front. What'd you call it? The shroud, the hood, yeah. So I had this big rubber hood, and I could put it on anyone's tank, and I never would scratch it because it was on rubber. And that was very safe, because people are always really,
Kind of like, you'll see me when I'm shooting, I always hold my hand out like that, and my fingers gauge where, you know, how close I can be.
And that way, there's no risk of, with the front lens, scratching their acrylic tank or their glass tank. So I try to be cognizant of that, because I don't want that person mad at me. You know, I don't want to scuff their tank. Now, the things that you should do with your tank before you even shoot, if at all possible, is clean the glass, run some carbon, and I would do that the day before. I wouldn't do it minutes before, because you're gonna have a lot of particulates blowing around. And if you can clean the tank the day before, and you're also cleaning the sand bed so it's nice and tidy, and you've cleaned all the way down with a razor blade or a credit card or something down low, because this is where the hermit crabs are gonna be. This is gonna be where the fun stuff is. And you try and take a picture of this, all this little algae dots that ruin the shot. So if you can really prep the tank the day before, that would be ideal. And that way you have a nice photo studio to work in, and you can start to shoot the tank and take your time. You see in this shot here, I've got a tripod. This is Big Bertha. I inherited this from a friend. It's too heavy to carry, so I just keep it here at the house at all times. I have a more lightweight one I take on my trips, but if you shoot freehand, oftentimes you'll get some blur. So, I mean, it just happens, and because you're moving, you're breathing, you're moving from foot to foot. And so if you can use a tripod to stabilize it, that would help. And occasionally I'm just super lazy, and I stand in front of my tank and I take my picture really quickly. And then I post it, you know, I throw it through, you know, through Lightroom to clean it up, and I share it to Facebook. And then somebody like Sanjay says, "Don't you own a tripod?" I'm like, oh. And I feel all guilty.
You know, one thing I like about tripod versus handheld is the tripod, you can slow the shutter speed. So if you get any like debris and you're trying to something floating around, the shutter speed's slow enough that it'll blur that and you won't even notice it. But if it's a high shutter speed, you're gonna notice your little specks.
That's a smart trick.
That's a lot more editing too if you have to do that. But slow the shutter speed down and you'll get a clear shot.
I remember one time I took a picture of Spock, my NASA tang, and it was just this perfect shot, and there was like 1,000 dots in the water. And I sat at my computer with a heal button, deleting
Dot,
every dot. And I got fed up. And what you do is, as you're doing the healing brush, you then, I guess you exit. And so now you can see the photograph, and I can see how most of the dots are gone, but there's still like 150 to go. Back in the healing brush and continue.
It's a high shutter speed. It captures all.
Oh, it caught them all.
Freezes all the movement.
And who knows? Maybe I used a flash that day to make them even more bright.
Yeah,
So,
touch base on something that I feel like you didn't mention that help maybe when you're using your camera phone, the clip. If your picture still comes out too blue or not how you're quite wanting it, if you take the picture, go in your settings, adjust the warmth, and then oftentimes you can adjust the tint a little bit, but the warmth is really what you want to adjust. That'll really filter out more blue in your picture.
That's true.
Rather than just, that way you don't got to dump it in Lightroom or, it'll help. Just give it a try. It'll help out a lot. But you really need that filter to do that, the clip on. If not, then you're kind of doomed.
Yeah, with cell phones, and like the Samsung is really good at taking Reef photography for some reason. It just loves it.
The Pro mode. It's basically the same thing as what you're doing with the DSLR. You're adjusting the white balance, Kelvin, everything else. Another trick you can do is if, for example, like it still doesn't come out how you want it, you can screenshot your edited photo and then re-edit the screenshotted photo to remove more blue.
Wow, I've never tried that. That's funny.
Those tricks. Yeah.
I was going to say the iPhone, on the other hand, adds all kinds of blue. It's a nightmare. I cannot believe with all the iPhone users out there, there's not an aquarium mode as an option. You would just think, because everyone has an aquarium. There's like a million aquariums in the United States, and there are so many iPhone users. But there's different apps that you can use there's one called Aquarium Plus or something like that. And Snapseed is an editor.
I don't know if it's still free, but it was free when I downloaded it years ago.
Yeah, I remember that years ago too.
Basically the same thing. You're going to go into your same thing. You're going to adjust your white balance the same way. You're going to add warmth. Anytime there's blue in a picture, you want to add warmth. That's how you offset that.
Yeah. So you made your room dark. You're wearing dark clothing. You've covered the light shining in your eyes and into the lens of your camera. You're holding the camera steady on a tripod. You've got low ISO if possible on your iPhone or your smartphone, your Android. You can't control ISO necessarily unless you're in pro mode. So you basically just shooting whatever it is, and that's okay. So, like I said, if you can hit the screen to focus on the subject, I would avoid zooming in on your phone. A lot of people want to do that. They want to zoom all the way in as far as it'll zoom, and then they take a picture, and it's like 96 pixels. It's just terrible. So instead, get a good shot. You can always then crop it down because the files these phones save are monstrous. They're like 12 megapixel, 24 megapixel. They're giant, humongous photographs. And so you take your fantastic 4K photo and then you trim off all the BS on the edges, pardon my French, and you get the subject in the middle, and it actually looks nice and shareable. So you can definitely do cropping, which would be useful. And these are all tools built into your phone. You don't have to download anything or buy something. These are default features. You can flip the image if it's backwards for some reason. Like, let's say you're taking a picture of something. I mean, some people use the front camera, some people use the back camera. And when they're doing stuff, the words are backwards. So you can flip the image, you can rotate the image. That's another thing that I see people do, and I never understand why they do it. They have a picture, it's of their tank, and they hit upload, and the aquarium that's supposed to be like this is standing on its edge because the photograph went uphill instead of being a horizontal shot. And I don't know why they don't just hit delete, get it off the internet, go to their phone, hit crop, hit rotate image 90 degrees, hit save, and re-upload. So at least it's the right direction.
You're so mean. Mark, you're so mean. You're just mean.
When I see those tanks that are standing vertically, I say, how do you keep the water in there? Because it would just pour out one side, right?
Hey, Mark, can you talk a little bit about capturing fluorescence, and are there any tricks or special approaches you need to deal with real high fluorescent corals? Then you're usually dealing with a completely saturated blue field. Yeah. But is there a special way to approach that?
There is, and typically when people have been taking pictures of those in the past, they were doing late night pictures when they don't even use the lights over the tank. And they are just shooting with like a small blue LED flashlight, and they're getting the coral fluorescence you're talking about. I think is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, some things you can do to help capture that is, like I was mentioning earlier, like with your phone clip, you can take your picture and adjust that warmth, but you got to do it in a little bit more blue spectrum. Lower your, I don't know how, not really editing video, but you can lower your highlights, raise your contrast a little bit, and adjust your brightness, and that'll help bring out more of that fluorescence. I mean, you can really exaggerate it a lot, but really the fluorescence comes from shooting in more of a blue spectrum and filtering that back out.
There's that. And then there's also the fact that the coral kind of looks like it's glowing from within. So you need to darken the image a little bit so you can see the details.
Yeah.
Because if you let it just blow out the lens, it just becomes like you talk about highlights. Literally highlights are when you take a picture of something and there's something just like super white it's overdone. And if you adjust the highlights down, it actually becomes something you can recognize.
You can use like a dehazing in Lightroom or Photoshop, and that'll darken the image a little bit and retain a lot of the detail in your brighter areas on a coral and things.
And if you're tapping on your screen, or you're using your camera and you're focusing in the middle of the glowing area, the camera's computer will adjust a little bit to deal with that brightness. And that's what I was saying, like my tank's kind of all the same color. I mean, it's just like a whole bunch of this. But before, I had stuff that was like bright. I mean, if I'm taking a picture of each individual coral, so I go blue tort, and then I do tan pavona, and then I go green slimer or green Piscine. Usually greens are really bright. And so if I were to just go click, click, click on 3 different ones, I can guarantee you that the green ones are going to look blown out because the camera wasn't adjusted for the change. So when I get to those things that are popping with light, they're overblowing. Like I said, the highlights are too high. I will adjust the camera down basically to darken the image, to equalize it, so that way I can see the green coral, but the green coral isn't glowing off the screen.
Yeah, you can really blast it with light.
Right, because it'll be too bright and it just messes up the shot. But adjusting it down, you can see it as you're taking it. And the nice thing about these cameras and smartphones, until your memory card is empty, you can keep going. It's not, I took a picture, that's it, I have to live with it. And I think that's the mentality of the old days when you had to buy a roll of film, you got 12 shots or 24 shots, and you had to develop them, and you found out like a week later what you got. Now we literally take a picture and share it. And I feel like, and I do it too. I take a picture of something and I'm like, oh, it's blurry. And I throw it away and I take it again. I don't just upload the blur because it's not fair to you and I don't want to offend your eyeballs. Murray, did that kind of answer it? I mean, I'm sure that there's articles that were written a decade ago about coral fluorescence and taking their pictures. Because I seem to remember there was a tool or there was a special flashlight or on the market.
I remember about 15 years ago, I ran a Cereanthid tank, the tube anemones that were fluorescing, a lot of pink ones.
Yeah.
And I was using, just the moonlights on a metal halide fixture to illuminate them. And I went back and looked at some of those pictures I tried to take, and they're just like glowing masses of indistinguishable pink biomass, maybe with some tentacles. They're terrible. I mean,
lower all your highlights.
Yeah.
Shoot underexposed.
Well, this was 10 years ago, and we don't, I think it was really hard to get that kind of level of photography done, at least for an amateur. And now I think we have more tools available. But
yeah, I personally like shooting underexposed because once you blow out the highlights in a coral or any image, it's really hard to bring that back down and retain all the detail in it. So always shoot underexposed. You can raise that, in editing, but drop your highlights also.
Okay. Now, another thing that no one thinks about when they take pictures, they just don't even think about it. But they see their tank, they're like, that looks fantastic. I want a picture of that right there. And they're seeing it with their eyes from this level to that coral. So they get their tripod, and that seems to be the same height, but it's actually not. This has to be up like almost this high to match your eye level, because even the camera, you're looking through here, but it's looking down here, and that's 2 inches lower. So when I'm shooting, I'm very cognizant of where my lens is. Am I trying to get eye level or am I just trying to shoot a coral? And it's because sometimes there's something specific I want to identify. I want to show that specific look. And so sometimes just getting your camera up a little bit higher will help. Now your tripod might have a limit of how high it can go. You could put books under the feet to bring it up a little bit higher. You can bring the legs up a little bit tighter. And then the other thing, of course, when you're using a tripod, if you like, you can use a remote trigger. So now you don't even hit the button, because when you hit the button, it shakes the camera a little bit. So if you have a trigger that's either wireless or there's a wired one, but you're like over here, you go click, then it will shoot the shot with no vibration. You get a nice clean shot. If you are using a countdown timer, the one thing you want to totally avoid doing is saying, okay, go, and it counts down from like 3, 2, 1, shoot. Or it could be 10, 9, 8. When it's that super long one, then you think, I'll walk. And as you're walking, you shake the floor and the tripod is moving. So you're just kind of dancing around back here because it's doing its job, and you have shaken your photography subject. This thing is now wiggling because you're bouncing the floor. So be very still, start the timer, let it count down, it shoots a shot, then move again. So you got to stay still with the camera.
You could, adding to that, shutter speed, have it equal to the same focal length as your lens. So like if you're on a 60 millimeter, shutter speed should be at least be 60, and that'll reduce a lot of the camera shake.
Okay.
You can bring up your ISO a little bit, but at some point it's going to be too high in the screen. So
Yeah.
You get away with maybe 300 ISO, 400, and still get a very good picture.
Okay.
Try that.
Now, should you have the aquarium turned on or should you have the aquarium turned off when you're taking pictures? Myself, I like it to be on and everything's just moving. But for a photographer that likes things to be very still for a good shot, they might want to turn off all the pumps. And I remember I had someone here years ago who was a very nice aquarium photographer, and he said, listen, I'm going to turn off all the pumps and it's going to be off for a while. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah. And then he pulled out a whole bunch of, whatchamacallit, a bunch of velvet, black velvet. And he wanted to clip it to the bank of the tank so you wouldn't see all the stuff behind my aquarium. He just didn't want that there. And my Nasso got really upset. She was pissed. And she was just like turning black and going to the corners. And I was like, she does not like that fabric on the back of the tank because she wasn't used to it. It was something weird and different. But it helped with the photography. So you have to take into mind also that you're going to have animals respond differently to what you're doing. And if you're normally always keeping the flow running in your tank all the time, then your fish are going to act a certain way. And when you stop the power, they may all just go straight to the rock and hide because they're scared. Something's different. Or they might think, oh, it's feeding time. And they all swarm the tank. And you're like, okay, now they're totally in my way again, but I'm trying to take pictures. So you have to know what your subject is going to do and in what conditions. But if you're trying to take pictures of corals, macro shots like SPS corals macro shots of SPS corals, like the polyps on a SPS coral, you might want no flow. You might want those polyps to stand right like that and just wait, and you can take that shot, and then people are all super jealous that you have an incredible polyp extension, where mine are all hiding inside the corals because I have a ton of flow in my aquarium. But there are different tricks. One of the best views you can ever take of your aquarium is going to be from above, shooting down through the surface of the water. And that's why you benefit from using something like the top-down viewer box. This one from Building Obsession. This is one that I made a long time ago from Melev Reef. This one here is a clear base. You just mount the camera onto the thumb screw, and then you can hold it in the tank, and you can take pictures through the surface of the water with no reflections, no lights bouncing off the water. And you don't even have to turn off the flow in the tank because the box is penetrating through all the rippling water, and I can get the picture of my coral. And if you're going to do it with a smartphone, I use these little boxes here that I call smartphone floaters, and it floats on the surface of the water. You lay your phone inside there, and you would take your pictures right through the glass, and you can get some nice shots from above. Now inside here, I have this little tiny orange filter, and I got a pack of like 10 flavors a long time ago. And so I just lay one in there, and I make sure that it is covering the lens of the camera itself. And now I can go ahead and take some pictures and filter out some of the blue. And if you don't like the look, number one, change the color of the tank with the LED lights. or try different colors of that orange
Whatever it is. You know.
plastic. I don't know what the stuff is, but this is a really nice way to take pictures from above with a smartphone. And I've been doing it for many, many years, and it's super handy. And then when you're not using it for photography, you can also use it to look down in your tank to find the aptasia that you're trying to get rid of. So that is some of that. What else?
Shooting at an angle, you get diffraction, and so if you're not perfectly level or even with the glass, you get a little blur around your image. A way around that is a higher f-stop. So usually like f9 and above, you can slowly correct that and shooting at an angle. Because
you're penetrating a sheet of glass, and the glass is going to create a weird.
Yeah, it distorts your image.
I see what you're saying.
Some people have trouble with that. It doesn't happen with the phones, smaller sensor, but DSLRs it'll happen with almost every time.
What about Polo Reef with his 4-inch acrylic?
So it's the same thing. F20, you know, things like that. Yeah, same concept.
Yeah, the bigger the tank, the harder this is to shoot because the subject is farther away. Public aquariums are notorious for that. They're always 8 feet, 9 feet, 11 feet back. And you're trying to take this picture and you're thinking, why does it look so dim? Why doesn't it look good? And it comes down to how far away you are from the tank. Usually, the first thing I can tell you is just take a big step toward the tank and get closer. We naturally just migrate to, I'm gonna take a picture of the tank, you stand here. And I'm like, get here, get closer, and just find the area you care about the most, or do several shots, or even do a panoramic shot and work your phone across.
You know, I've found also at public aquariums, all the people that are with you don't like it when you tell them all to get out of the back of you because they're making a reflection.
Yeah. No, I just tell them all.
I'll wait.
No, I do. I wait.
I wait politely.
Yeah, I wait too. I'm standing with my tripod. They got their 3 kids licking the glass, and I'm just
Alice World Aquarium. Yeah, that's black in that area, and there's a bright light behind you. I'm just waiting.
That's very specific. I feel like you actually have seen that happen.
Oh yes, I've seen a lot of craziness, and fortunately, people also understand that I'm there for a minute as well. And so if I'm trying to take pictures of a sun coral tank or flashlight fish or, like you said, jellyfish, everyone gets a turn at the tank, basically. I mean, it's just kind of a thing. We don't have to like call a number. We just know. And so you'll have people and their kids run up, and then sometimes you're shooting and they're waiting, or their kid just runs into your shot and you're like, okay. And usually it's okay. They're not usually in the shot, but sometimes they do. And the parents will come to pull them away and tell them, wait a minute, let him finish. And you can kind of see that people do care. But I don't want to intentionally tell people, like you said initially, get lost. I don't do that. But, it's tempting. Okay, let's say you want to take pictures of fish. You said you're really enjoying taking pictures of fish right now. And I can tell you some techniques first, and then he's going to tell you I'm all wrong. That's fine. One of the best ways to get a picture of a fish that you're really trying to get, especially a super active one that's always on the move, is to just watch your tank for like 5 minutes and figure out the pattern that fish takes. It's going to do a certain type of lap, and it continues to do it. It doesn't just randomly go places. They literally have something going on in their brain, and they do these laps. And when you know exactly where it's going to go, you put your camera pointed at that spot, and you focus on that area with your, the autofocus, or even switch the autofocus to manual and lock it. Or if you're using your phone and we'll go into camera mode here. If you put your finger on the viewfinder, let's call it that, it will do focus, right? But if you put your finger on there and hold it, it will lock it. And now that spot is focused indefinitely until you move. So if you had picked a spot where the fish swims every single time and I locked it, I just have to wait for the fish to swim into that spot and hit the shutter, and I can catch that fish. So it's a technique that I've used with like angels. Angels are always on the move, and they don't sit still, or you've got, activity happening to where you keep getting blurry. This fish over here is a nightmare to take pictures of. Caitlin's little flame angel, or this Japanese pygmy angelfish, never sit still for any reason whatsoever. Never, ever. It's better for video than it is for photography. But I will still work and work and work trying to get 1 or 2 or 3 good shots of her. And it's a real job. So that's why sometimes the trick is to set the camera to focus to an area, let it swim into the shot, and hit the button. And I remember this one guy came over, he was doing photography, and he used the countdown timer because he didn't want his camera to shake. And he found some coral he really liked. And it's like 3, 2, 1. And then right as you hear the shutter, a fish swims into the shot and blocks the coral. And there's like a tail. And he's like, ah! So he resets the shot, 3, 2, 1. So there's a lot going on. It's life, and there's always something that's gonna mess with you a little bit, but there are basic rules of thumb that I feel are super important to be better at our photography. Okay, what were you gonna say about taking pictures of the fish?
What you said.
No, there's no way.
So strictly with DSLRs, I use a continuous focus
That's a good
and
one.
a back button autofocus. I program. I don't know if you can see it, but I program this button on the back of the DSLR, and since it's on continuous focus, I just hold it down, and whatever I point it at, it's going to automatically focus. So if I'm shooting a fish, I'm just holding that button down and following it, and it's staying in focus with it. If it moves back a little bit, it's going to refocus and adjust there. High ISO for that. To get a really crisp, great picture, I use flash, but like you mentioned earlier, top down. I shoot all the fish top down, and even sometimes at an angle, 45 degree, any, just different angles, but really top down is the look that you want kind of, on your fish. It's going to illuminate it just right. Continuous autofocus. You can shoot with 100 ISO, and really that's it. I mean, it's
When you say top down, are you talking about the flash top down or the lens top down?
the
like
flash.
camera?
I have a, like he has, but it's wireless, but I'm holding that down like above the tank.
Okay.
I'm holding the continuous autofocus back button down, and I'm just following my subject like that and snap the picture. And the reason why I use the back button autofocus though and not the top is as soon as you click the button, that fish could have moved and it'll become blurry.
Yeah.
You'll miss your shot. It's something I learned. I used to photograph drones, like drone racing, and I use that technique a lot, and I just carry that over the fish.
Yeah.
So,
There's something that someone mentioned to me once, and I realized they were 100% true. When it comes to taking pictures of fish, the one thing that has to be in focus are the eyes. And if the eye isn't in focus, the whole shot's bad. It just is. You might have a perfectly focused fish, but the eye is off and no one cares.
yeah, the great thing about using a flash is it'll freeze your subject, but you can use a super high f-stop, f20. You get the whole fish in focus.
Yeah.
And adjust your output of your flash to be brighter, and you'll get a perfect image almost every time.
Yeah.
Once you dial it in.
Yeah. I knew one person that he mentioned the eyeball thing, I think. And he also liked I think he held the flash down low so that their belly would glow. Like it was just another technique.
Yeah.
For like
different ways. The only thing you don't want to do is put it straight on, because you get a very bright spot in the middle of the fish, and then you got to edit. You just a lot of problems with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like taking a picture of a balloon.
Yeah.
If you're going to take pictures from the end of your tank, again, you want your glass to be clean. You want to find what's a sweet spot as you're shooting. You figure out how it's going to look best to where you don't see the plumbing, or maybe you want to get the look of the lights and the tank. This is all when you get a little artistic, but you're trying to capture something. But when I've got my camera, we'll grab this right here without a tripod. We'll just freehand it just to shock the world. I don't have the rubber boot on here, so I don't want to scratch my tank. So I use my hand and use my fingers to stabilize. And now I can choose how I want to shoot, whether I want to shoot vertical or I want to shoot horizontal. And I would go ahead and just find that sweet spot. But I'm trying to be cognizant of the light coming from above. I'm trying to make sure that my subject is right. I don't want to see this plumbing. I don't want to see this big magnet. I don't want to see frag racks. If there's things that are in the tank that offend you, get them out of the picture if at all possible before you even start, so you're not having to Photoshop them out later. One of the best things I used to do in Reef Central, drove people crazy, in a good way. I would go ahead and they'd post a picture of their tank. And I'd say, because it was nice, but it had all this gear. So I went into Photoshop and I erased the power heads and I erased the heaters and I erased the wires and I erased just all that gear.
You bring up a lot of old bad memories of me. I used to edit people's pictures when they posted them, and I wasn't trying to do anything bad. They get so mad at me.
Yeah,
they would hate it. Like, what's wrong with my picture? I'm like, nothing. I'm just trying to help you.
But what's funny is I did that, and then I'd upload this picture with all the gear gone. It's like, wow, that looks great. What'd you do? And it's like, I got rid of all your gear. And like, you did. You're right. It's gone. I said, That's how a reef tank's supposed to be. No frag racks, no wires, no clips, no nothing. Just a reef. It should just be as natural as possible. And so, you know, again, if they have a frag rack, and some people do that intentionally. Andre, the guy that does Reef Moonshiners, he had this very specific trick that made his pictures look unbelievably fantastic. And I didn't know it for a long time. And then one day I looked at a picture of his tank from a distance, like, oh, I see what he's doing. So he had a frag rack right in the front of the tank that went, or 2 or 3 maybe, just a single width. Jack, stop. And he put all these frags in there, these fantastic, you know, $100, $300 corals. And then when you took a picture, you had all the glowing colors in the front and his huge colonies behind it. It was this really neat, and it was like Christmas in his tank. And I was like, man, it's so cool. And I was like, how is he doing that? Because I couldn't quite figure it out because those corals in the front were blurred out a little bit, but they were glowing still. And it was a trick using frag racks. But you never see a tank of the month aquarium with frag racks in it. It just doesn't happen because it looks cheap. It looks cheesy. And the corals belong on the rock. They don't belong on plastic trays magnetized to the glass or whatever. And so I don't want anything on the tank. I want it to be as clean and as pristine as possible. See, we just talked for a whole hour and we barely touched the surface.
I mean, you're
There's
right.
so much
You're
more
right.
we can talk about. But that's it. Lisa's going to throw us off in 2 minutes flat.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
So I was making a list of questions, but you guys were so awesome. You came back and answered as you were going. And then one of the other things, I'm just going to do a shout out. If people go to Mark's store, they will find the phone floater box he was talking about. Because I was like, I saw those before. They are out there.
I
I
talk
saw
about photo boxes and the
Yeah, I'm getting myself one.
Again, it's really handy for working in your tank and looking down. So it doesn't have to only be used for cameras.
Right.
I have a question. I'm on Amazon right now, and I just wanted you to remind me again the number of that orange filter or the letters and numbers.
85B.
What? Sorry, what's the first thing you said before 85B?
Hoya is the brand. Hoya. H-O.
Oh,
Yeah, HOYA.
There's also
85B.
other ones, but that's very popular. It's fairly cheap and
Okay.
but yeah, takeaways from this, I would say, if you're shooting with DSLR or your phone, with or without the filter, adjust your Kelvin on the DSLR, the highest it'll go. Phone, adjust your warmth, sometimes your tint. And if you're shooting fish, I would use continuous autofocus.
Yeah.
But set up your back button autofocus on your DSLR.
Yeah.
That'll help. You don't need a flash for that, but you'll get a sharper picture with the flash. You can drop your highest level.
That was my other question. So is there, I mean, I heard what you said, but I probably need to walk through on it. Is there like tutorials online on how to do what you just said?
Yeah, just look up your model number, like your whatever camera you have. I don't know what DSLR, but I don't know if the older ones have it. Depends how new it is, but yeah, that's how I set up mine. I have a Nikon D850. I just typed in how to set up back button autofocus, and
Back button autofocus. Okay.
and then I forget what it's called on Canon cameras for the continuous focus. Nikon's continuous. Canon is a different word, but does the same thing.
Okay.
Now, one thing that I do want to point out on my website, there's probably 6 or 7 aquarium photography articles, and they're old. I wrote them a long time ago, and they're not wrong, so I don't remove them. But like ones like how to shop for a DSLR. That was a long time ago, and that information no longer
They're so
matches
good now. I mean, you can almost buy any
anything. At
2012 maybe, and
Yeah,
put it in auto, and you're good.
right. And that's the nice thing. But I like to shoot always in manual, and I'm adjusting the aperture and I'm adjusting the f-stop. There's 2 knobs, front and back on the camera. I'm constantly adjusting those. And for the longest time, I'm just going to hold this up as if it was a graph. There would be like a little tick mark in the middle, and then there's like some short ones. I know it sort of looks like a ruler at the bottom of as you're looking through the viewfinder. And I would always try to keep the line right in the middle. That was my goal. I would adjust the f-stop, and adjust and it would just move back and forth. And it was in the middle, I took my shot. And he said, "Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "I thought that's what you're supposed to do." He says, "I never do that." So now I'm kind of not as adamant about getting that middle mark, but I am trying to find the sweet spot in the picture. And so I'm looking and I'm watching the results. Now, I think you take pictures and turn off the playback. Like you're shooting, you don't want to see the playback, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't. I just.
You just shoot because you're so used to your
I'm
camera.
used to that, and I know like the corals. Like every coral's gonna have a different white balance. That's why I shoot Kelvin now. I used to have a custom white balance, but you can't blanket the whole thing.
Right,
You're
because everything's different.
Yeah, so Kelvin, some of it may be in 5,500, and 7,500, 10,000.
Yeah.
It varies.
So he's not looking at the review, but your cameras normally you hit a button to click it, and it shows you what you just took, and you can double check what it was. And if you like it, you live with it. If you don't, hit delete and take it again. Get it right. Take another 30 seconds to get the shot. Now, when you're taking pictures with your phone, like I did before, I took a picture. This is my reef. And then when you're looking at your picture, there's an option here called edit. And with edit comes all these commands. And these commands are super easy to use on your phone. So just play with them. Just look at them and say, okay, this one here will let me turn the picture around and around and pivot it right side up, upside down.
That's where you find the warmth. You go in there and adjust your warmth.
Right. There's going to be an adjustment here where you can find warmth, you can find tint, you can add a bokeh at the end here. This one here, I can add black around the edges, or I can
And it's
make
the
it
same.
super bright on the
It's
edges.
the same. If you don't have Lightroom, I would recommend getting Lightroom. I use Photoshop now. Same thing. You're adjusting Kelvin really, and you can drop highlights in that too. I mean, really, it's all the basics. Is white balance, Kelvin. Stay away from saturation.
Yes.
Vibrancy. Stay away from that.
Right. We don't use either of those.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, it's just a matter of everything be clean before you take your pictures. Take your time. Don't share blurry things. And don't share reflections of mini blinds on your tank, because
Don't be afraid to. You gotta start somewhere, right?
I'll just unfriend you.
Uploading blurry and reflective photos now.
I don't even think he's joking.
He's not even joking. You'll have to pay me off with Crown Royal if you want me to set it back. All right, I guess that's it, Lisa. I mean, like I said, there's more that we go into, but at one point, it's just too much information. I want to keep it simple enough that you can say, okay, I came away from this. Now I know how I can get better pictures of my thing.
So does
Thanks to you both, guys. It was great.
Add warmth.
Yeah, this was
Add warmth to your
fantastic.
pictures.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Don't go anywhere. If you don't, everyone who's here, I have made little slips of paper with names on them. And I have a box, and I'll be doing a drawing for Piscine Energetics has generously donated food. And so we'll have 2 winners this evening of PE pellets. We have a 3 millimeter size, 8 ounce, and a 2 millimeter size, 4 ounce that we'll be giving away. But does anyone have any questions before we switch into giveaway mode? Marc and Michael, thank you so much for tonight. Oh my
Thank you
goodness.
for letting
I
me-
thought I would hyperventilate with excitement. I was just so thrilled tonight was coming together.
I'm glad that he came to crash this. He's like, I want to come. I can't believe you can find 30 minutes to talk about it.
I wanted to come. This happened because I saw Lisa and I saw Mark's name on this flyer, and I was like, that's really interesting. I'd like to come see how he does this, and I don't.
Thank
One of the
you.
club tables.
All right, we got to make this blue again. It's too yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting names in the box. And the box is
Fishbowl for this.
a Reef Rex box, who is another wonderful, I don't think he's for that, a wonderful. I am gonna look inside, because it's now occurring to me that the box, okay, they did mix. It's like the box is shallow, I hope they mix.
You need to just like make a hole and stick a blow dryer in there and let the air tumble it.
Fill it up with cash.
Let it rain, yes. Okay, our first winner this evening is Conan. Woo-hoo,
Yay!
woo, 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 woo. And so you get the large size. Is that okay with you? Because it
Yeah.
can be first choice, okay. And then the 4 ounce size is gonna be. I think I have just one. Jack. So Jack, I'll need to get your contact information. And then I'll put this in the mail, or if you're going to be at Frank's Tanks is where the club will be in 2 weeks. Murray gave the announcements. And I should remember because I wrote them, but I don't remember. There's other places will be that you can meet up with me too, or I can
Yes,
just.
thank you.
Sure. Don't give your private information here because this is going to go out on YouTube. But I'll stop the recording if there's no more questions. And then if you guys want to hang out for a little bit, I know we oftentimes do that. Any last questions before I stop the recording? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording then.
Guys, I got to bounce. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation.
Bye, Murray.